Karla Scott here of Global Ways. Today we are continuing our discussion of Russian versus American culture. And we're doing this by way of observing some encounters between Americans from the United States and Russians. What are the advantages of actually looking at some of these face-to-face encounters between individuals from both cultures? Well, first of all, they can demonstrate that culture is real, that it actually does show up in our behavior. It also serves to demonstrate that cultural differences must also be real, and it's helpful for us to be aware of them if we want to be effective in our encounters with people from other cultures. These situations help to present some basic American cultural norms. And most of the time we're not even aware of our basic American cultural norms because they're so embedded in our psyche. They're passed down from generation to generation that we don't consciously think about them. But they also present the contrasting cultural norms between Americans from the U.S. and those from Russia. So let's take a look at this encounter between Natasha, who's Russian, and Sharon, who's an American, and they're both in Russia. Here's Natasha. Excuse me, but that elevator is out of order. Really? Whom should we talk to? Talk to? Yeah, to report it. I have no idea. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you lived here too. But I do. So what's going on here? Let's look at a discussion of this encounter between the American and the Russian in Russia. The title of this situation is Out of Order. Sharon, the American, can't imagine that someone who lives in a high-rise apartment doesn't know to whom a broken elevator should be reported. But you would only know that, of course, if you were in the habit of reporting such things, which Natasha, the Russian, clearly is not. In her world, elevators break down from time to time, and in due course, they are fixed. Meanwhile, one walks. She was simply alerting Sharon to the fact that the elevator wasn't working. By and large, Americans are doers. Our first impulse when confronted with a problem or obstacle of some sort is to act, either to take charge ourselves or to light a fire under someone else. We respond in this way because we believe that doing something can make a difference, that individuals, you and I, can actively influence events. We are an activist culture in the United States. Our experience as a nation has been to face and overcome serious obstacles, hence our strong faith in the power of doing. It goes on to say that our Russian friend Natasha lives in a different universe. She believes that the individual is limited in what he or she can do, that many obstacles are truly insurmountable. And there is therefore no point in getting excited, in doing something, when elevators break down, or roads are impassable, or the cow dies. When such a person confronts a broken elevator, her first impulse may very well be to do nothing, to just wait and see what happens next. This resignation or fatalism, which should not be confused with passivity, probably derives in part from the physical hardships of life in Russia. There wasn't much you could do about the wind from the steppes or the acute shortages of vegetables. Your goal was to endure. And it may also be a legacy of centuries of serfdom. And they went straight from serfdom to being tricked into being communist, where the individual virtually disappeared. There was no longer the person in Russia under communism. During serfdom, one really didn't feel that one had much scope for changing one's life. This is not to say that Natasha doesn't mind that the elevator is broken, that she isn't inconvenienced by it, or that she doesn't wish it were fixed. Merely she has no sense that her doing something about it would make the slightest difference. Her immediate instinct is not to act, but to cope. And now I'd like for you to think about what implications does this kind of attitude and way of living and thinking, what impact could this have on your encounters with a business counterpart or with someone on a purely social basis in Russia? I'd like for you to think about that, but most importantly, I'd like for you to challenge your own assumptions about what's appropriate and about what's inappropriate behavior, because once you're in Russia, it's important that in order to be effective that you understand what motivates their behavior. This is Karla Scott from Global Ways. See you during the next segment where we discuss other cultures and how to be effective.